Place the hammer in the seal. Give me your spider.
I remember when Black Lake was a nice place to live.
Neverwinter is based on the tabletop RPG Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, and 4th edition actually borrowed some ideas from video games. This isn't a sequel to the much-loved BioWare game Neverwinter Nights, but it does take inspiration from it.
There's a few things that Neverwinter does better than any MMO I've played before, but there's also a few things that might be an issue for some. Let's start with the world itself. If you somehow manage to find the tiny checkbox that lets you put up all the sliders, it becomes quite a good-looking game.
Oh, this is quite pretty.
It's no Guild Wars 2, but Hex, I don't know if a game can ever be as pretty as Guild Wars 2.
Yes, and unlike Guild Wars 2, it doesn't follow the same kind of open world format. You just don't get a clear sense of the world from these interconnecting maps I found. But it's the dungeoning and rich combat which will draw you in, and there is certainly plenty of that.
I love the combat. I think it's great. The animations are so reactive and everything hits where it should. There's no mouse cursor in the combat, so targeting is just with the reticule, and I had no issues with the targeting, Hex. I think that's a first for an MMO.
Yeah, the aiming mechanic is just incredible, and this may sound like a small thing to get excited about, but I think the days of tabbing through enemies should be far behind us, Barjo, and this is a leap in the right direction. Ah, and the ragdoll, hilarious.
Leave him alone.
Yes, proper ragdoll in an MMO. I think that might actually be a first as well, or at least it hasn't been done this well before. It's so satisfying when a hit lands perfectly and everyone just goes flying.
Thanks for summoning the spider curse.
I also like that the combat is based around cooldowns with the abilities. It just feels more modern not to have to worry about a rage meter or a mana pool. That kind of strategy I find more fun. It's good just being able to walk into a room or up to a set of goons with a plan, execute that plan, and have it all go to plan.
Well, we've tried all the classes and they're all really fun, though I think D&D players may find them a little bit restrictive. There are only 5 classes at the moment and they're all very set in their roles and weapons.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing, but somewhat expected as well. I thought they did a pretty good job with the character customization, though. There's plenty of races to choose from and lots of sliders. You can have big hands if you want, and a little short guy, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, there's some nice detail on the gear as well, although the gear itself is pretty generic. You won't find a lot of variety in terms of the types of weapons and armor you can equip.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have gear which looked like it came from a specific area that you were questing in. On the class side of things, the skill tree as far as we've played it doesn't offer heaps of choice bar a few points here and there. The real customization comes from your feats tree. The choices you make here empower the abilities that you've chosen to put into your moveset. So there is some freedom in the way you want to play.
No surprise here, but I rolled rogue and I thought the stealth was done really well. When one class can go into permanent stealth in a game, it becomes really hard to cater for that ability in quest design. So here they've hit a middle ground well, and in fact all the classes are just pure fun.
Yeah, normally I just have one main because I feel like playing any other characters is a betrayal to that main.
I get that.
Yeah, but here I actually have more than one. I was happy to.
Donk.
Although that's also a bad thing because I've already spent 40 hours in this game and I just don't have that much time for this many characters in my life. Although I spent a good part of that time in the game's content creator called The Foundry, building the worst dungeon in the world, Jimmy the Rat.
All right, after you guys.
And you can go online and rate my dungeon and play it and offer tips, but I don't recommend it because my dungeon is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, but to be fair, I did have a good time exploring your very creative and zany approach to game design, Barjo. Ratty McTony. Though I was a bit alarmed by the fact that the quest giver kept vomiting repeatedly while trying to deliver his quest info. Go and find out why he wants you dead. What's it gonna be? Vomits. Oh, by the way, the king wants him dead and has authorized me to dish out a reward. Vomits again! Also, your boss battle was a bit underwhelming, no offense.
You guys ready for magic? It's just the final boss. It's pretty weak though, Jimmy the Rat's dead.
I killed Jimmy?
Yeah.
I missed it!
I don't know, fair point. It is a powerful content creator though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and this is really where the game embraces the creativity of D&D. Anyone can make a dungeon, room by room, edit and write all the dialogue and objectives, and anyone can go and play that for free. I mean, it's pretty incredible just how polished and how well everything works, Barjo. And the best part is, some of the top-rated dungeons out there at the moment are better than a lot of the developer content.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them are hilarious, like this Voltron boss. But the best ones are the quests which stick to the lore and put the right enemies with the right storylines. And it's those ones where the real love for Dungeons and Dragons shines through. It's really hard to make a compelling level, and it's quite inspiring when you play one that is done right. I've gone back to my dungeon and tried to think about ways to surprise adventurers and play with audio cues and do things like using light and movement to lead you around. I didn't execute any of that very well, but I got a lot of joy actually watching you play my dungeon, and a lot of frustration when you weren't going the right way, which is my fault.
I'm just exploring my environment.
See the falling rubble?
Where's the falling rubble?
It says no, don't go that way.
Okay. I don't feel like that was clear. To me, it looks more interesting. Like, that's where I want to go.
I understand. Also, some of the dungeons are in other languages, in French, and Goose and I got stuck in one, which was a puzzle, and we couldn't work out what to do.
Okay, here's the manuscript. It's a puzzle in French. What do we do? I say this one.
Oh no.
I don't recommend those ones unless you want a unique challenge, or if you know French, I think you'll be okay.
I really did like, though, that your character's level scales when you do Foundry quests. And it's a solid option if you want to try another class but not have to repeat all the content.
My biggest criticism of this game, though, is that I found it very easy. I think I've only died maybe 3 or 4 times, and in fairness, I did have a companion mage with me the whole time who is pretty overpowered, but still, death isn't great, but I need to have a challenge, and I felt like I was on autopilot for a lot of this.
Well, if you wanted a challenge, why didn't you just not use your companion?
Because he's there and I had him, and it gave me an advantage. Plus the ragdoll, when he does his Fuss Radar thing, it's pretty great. I think if you switch to one of the animal companions, such as this ferocious honey badger, it's a bit more fun because I found they were all a bit rubbish. He doesn't care.
There are a few luxury items and leg ups in Neverwinter, and pretty soon you realise that microtransactions have been very cleverly woven into many parts of this game. The question is, does that ruin the experience, or is it fair?
Yes, and the model is quite confusing in this game, so Hex, I think we need a whiteboard.
I love whiteboards.
Right, there are 3 currencies in the game. Let's start with gold. That you pick up from kills and get from vendoring stuff. You can't use gold in the auction house. It only buys potions and not much else worth your time in our opinion, except for a 50% speed mount.
What kind of horse is that?
It's not my finest work, I'll give you that.
I couldn't even salvage it. What is that?
It's his tail.
The second and real currency is astral diamonds.
You earn this by doing daily quests, selling things on the auction house, skirmishes, and buy a few other little things. They buy auction house gear and companions and much more. It can also be used to speed up crafting and is required to remove socketed runes from gear.
The third currency is Zen, which you purchase from the game's website. If you play the stock market, you can trade Zen for astral diamonds and vice versa. Zen buys keys to unlock mystery lock boxes. It also buys character slots and faster mounts. Another wonderful horse.
It looks like he's fighting, but he's just going really fast.
I see. Can draw a little honey badger here. So as you can see, this layering of multiple currencies is quite confusing, and that's on purpose.
Yeah.
Right, well, I think we got that right, but to be honest, we're still unclear on a few little things.
Yeah, and a big thank you to Tata's Reddit post, which helped us decipher a lot of that pay model. What do you think of this model, Barjo?
I think it's easy to get up in arms whenever there's any kind of microtransaction, but on the whole, I think it's all right. Respeccing your character is overpriced, though. That's a core mechanic of an MMO, and I do that 2 or 3 times a week, so at $3 a pop, that felt a little high to me. But this MMO doesn't hold you hostage like many other free-to-play games do. I'd say I've dropped less than $50 into this game with no regrets, and that was mainly for my fast mount, which I only got when I hit level 20. And you don't need that fast mount, that's the key thing. You can get a 50% one easy enough. The faster ones are just a luxury item. And when I stepped back and looked at how much I spent on this and other MMOs, you get an incredible amount of content here for free.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but there are still a few aspects of this model that really annoy me, such as the lockboxes that drop. You're given these as a reward, but you can't open them without a key. I know you could go and grind some diamonds and trade that for Zen to buy them, but essentially you're being given a gift that you then have to pay to open. And this is the kind of thing that really gives free-to-play games a bad name.
Yeah, I can rarely resist the lure of the mystery box.
The key, what's it gonna be? And it's just borrowed runestones.
There is one other thing that we couldn't test out because it's endgame, but apparently the best and strongest enchantments in the game can only realistically be purchased with a bunch of cash. And that is a bit worrying if it's true, because those enchantments carry over into PvP.
Your team dominates.
The good news is, I really enjoyed the PvP. I spent a lot of time in it. There's only 3 maps, which is a shame, so I hope they expand that, but it all worked and there was very little lag.
I do have a few issues with this model, but it's nice to see a game that genuinely encourages a flourishing creative community as well. I had fun with this, maybe not as much as you, it didn't draw me in quite as much, but I still think it's worth an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think if you're playing a game like this, a free-to-play game, and that business model makes you regret spending money in the game, then that's a really bad thing. So it won't be for everyone, but at the end of the day, I'm getting a huge amount of value out of this game. I want to go and build stories and dungeons and share them with people and actually see what they think of them and get better at them. So I'm going to give this 9 out of 10 rubber chickens.